We begin this noon with breaking news out of Northern Liberties. 2 people are in custody after allegedly assaulting a Camden, New Jersey police officer, then stealing not 1 but 2 police cruisers and leading police on a chase. It began when the suspects allegedly stole a Camden police car during a traffic stop. The pair led officers on a chase across the Ben Franklin Bridge, where Philadelphia police stopped them and arrested the man. But the woman was able to hop into a Philadelphia police car and get away. Police finally caught up with her, but not before she caused a lot of damage. This all started near the Camden Police Department, and after the bizarre chain of events, it ended with the arrest of the female in the 1100 block of Hope Street in the Northern Liberties section of Philadelphia. Let's go live now to Action News reporter Vernon City Hospital, where the police officer who was assaulted is being treated. Vernon, what's the latest there?
The latest is, according to top Camden police officials, the officer, a veteran of the force who is not, his name not released yet, is in stable condition, not in a life-threatening situation. The officer, according to police, made a traffic stop this morning, and he was checking out a driver in a yellow Jeep. And as he checked out that driver for credentials, his patrol car was commandeered, carjacked by a man and a woman. And as he tried to stop them, they ran over him, according to the police account of what happened here. They carjacked him. Police say the vehicle struck him. The officer did call for help. He was able to do that. A wild chase went through South Jersey as far as Pennsauken, we are told, at this point. And at that point, the suspect in the car, in that police car, that Camden police car, got to the Ben Franklin Bridge, where they drove on into Philadelphia for those confrontations with police over there. The officer, again, a veteran of the police force, is in stable condition at this hour, listed in stable. Here's Camden's police chief recounting the events as he best knows this moments ago. Scott Thompson told us that it started after 10 o'clock, that the officer was jumped. They jumped in his patrol car as he checked out somebody else, looked at their license and registration, that they drove off from there. Fortunately, this police officer not injured very seriously at this hour. Live in Camden, Vernon Odom, Channel 6 Action News.
Okay, Vernon, and then that police pursuit ended all the way in the Philadelphia neighborhood of Northern Liberties. Us now they're live with more. John, what can you tell us?
Well, Sarah, of course, a wild and woolly morning, that's for sure. Let me pick up the narrative that Vernon Odom started with there. Once across the bridge, apparently Philadelphia police were able to stop the Camden police car in the vicinity of 7th and Norris. Right now, you'll look behind me, you can see Tow Squad is here to pick up what happened next. What happened next was, as they got the female suspect out of the car, she apparently or reportedly made a break for a Philadelphia police car. That would be Unit 2625, which is the car that's damaged. You can see it behind the Tow Squad truck here, which they will move soon as the crime scene folks are done. Anyway, she jumps into the car and takes off. Philadelphia police in pursuit. This is a very crowded section of Philadelphia. The streets are narrow, so it was a very restrained pursuit, according to Deputy Commissioner Richard Ross. Let's take a listen.
The police officers involved used a tremendous amount of restraint, as you could see, and they did a great job under the circumstances. But you're talking about some very reckless individuals. I mean, I've never heard of anybody stealing 2 police cars in the same instant.
Well, quite frankly, we've never heard of any single incident where somebody has stolen 2 police cars or allegedly stolen 2 police cars. Anyway, the lady at the wheel, I'm using the term advisedly lady, the woman at the wheel apparently hit several cars here in Philadelphia. Police can't say where or which cars those were as she was traveling. She also apparently either brushed very closely by a pedestrian. It caused some injury to that pedestrian, knocking her down, but Commissioner Ross said that they felt that she would probably be in pretty good shape. He did not think that she had very serious injuries at this point in time. But that's the narrative here in Philadelphia. It starts in Camden about 10 minutes to 9, or about 10 minutes to 10. It stopped. The second stop is here in Philadelphia at about 10:07, and then it comes to an end not long after that here in the 1100 block of Hope Street, where police did surround the car and took the female suspect into custody. So that's pretty much the details we know at this point in time. quite as they say, a wild and woolly morning to be sure. Live in Northern Liberties, John Rollins, Channel 6 Action News.
John, thank you. Let's go live now to a picture from 7th and Lehigh here in North Philadelphia. As this police pursuit was underway and Philadelphia police were chasing that stolen cruiser of theirs with a woman allegedly behind the wheel, it was a wild chase. She went up onto sidewalks, and you can see here, crashed into many cars here along the street. This is where the front end of that police cruiser was very badly damaged. In fact, you can see a piece of it lying there on the roadway. This is at 7th and Lehigh. A lot of damage done as this police pursuit was underway. Let's head on over to Alicia Vitarelli at the Action News Big Board with more on where this all unfolded and how it ended up. Alicia?
Well, Sarah, this just to give you a perspective over here at the Big Board of the scope of the map of how this all went down. Of course, it started in Camden, just near the police department building there. And of course, the suspect traveling over the Ben Franklin Bridge, just about 4 miles between point A and point B here again, starting in Camden, going over the bridge, starting about 9:48 this morning by 10:07, as John Rollins mentioned, ending up around 7th and Norris, and then ending here at 1100 Hope Street just a few minutes later. So not that long of a time span going between point A and point B, maybe a half hour, maybe 4 miles. But just to give you a look there of how it all ended up at 1100 Hope Street there. The pursuit, of course, the woman in the car driving, taking a few cars out, and of course brushing up against a pedestrian along the way. But just to give you, again, a view of the map here, 1100 Hope Street where it ended, starting in Camden. 2 states, 2 suspects, 2 police departments now very hard at work, and that's the latest at the Big Board. Sarah.
Crazy morning in Camden and Philadelphia. And you were talking about the 1100 block of Hope Street. Let's go back there to the scene. And Annie McCormick with more on what happened and some of the people who witnessed the end of the pursuit. Annie.
And Sarah, this is where it all ended. You can see behind me, cops are about to tow away that cop car where it ended here in the 1100 block of Hope Street. Well, when those cops came in, we were told by eyewitnesses it was a number of police cars coming in here. They could also hear the choppers overhead. They described seeing the woman, the suspect in that car, trying to flee the scene. That's when they saw officers apprehend her and then arrest her. You take a look at this video. This is video, I'm told, of the chopper video over the arrest when it was happening. Again, we're told that eyewitnesses say they believe that the woman was under the influence of something. They say when she jumped out of the car, it didn't look like she knew where she was going. It was quickly after she started to run away that officers then apprehended her. Here is what some witnesses that live here had to say.
It was absolute mayhem, because if you think about it, she stopped right here and it was just out of control. They arrested her, threw her on the hood, and then, you know, walked her to like a Suburban. And me and my roommate, who played for Schuylkill River Exiles rugby, came out, and it was just crazy. It was like, I thought a politician was coming through. That's how crazy it was.
And again, very crazy scene. That's Ben Rubin, an eyewitness who was in his office when he came out to find what was happening out here. We're told that this is a very quiet street. Of course, this is right off of Girard, which is a very busy street mid-morning. So we're told that a number of people are surprised at the fact that nobody was injured when that woman did come barreling down Hope Street. And of course, they're about to take away the car at this point, which is crashed with major front-end damage. But again, it all ended right here on Hope Street. Reporting live in Northern Liberties, Annie McCormick, Channel 6 Action News.
Annie.
A couple takes police on a wild ride through 2 states, allegedly stealing not 1 but 2 police cruisers, injuring a Camden police officer, nearly hitting a pedestrian and slamming into several vehicles along the way. They raced through the streets of Philadelphia as eyewitnesses watched in shock.
Seeing a girl get out of the police car, it looked like she just quit, and they grabbed her and took her into custody. She was barefooted and just, it looked like she was on drugs, just out wild.
The woman has now been identified as Shayna Sykes. Her boyfriend, who is also behind bars tonight, has been identified as Blake Bills. Officials say both were under the influence. Good afternoon. I'm Susan Barnett.
And I'm Chris May. Police say that it was Bills who drove a stolen Camden cruiser into Philadelphia. They were later stopped, and while he was being arrested, police say Sykes hopped into a 26th district cruiser, took off, nearly hit a pedestrian, and then hit several vehicles before she was arrested in Northern Liberties. We have live Team 3 coverage with Eyewitness News reporters Robin Rieger and Ben Semino today. Whew, Ben, let's start with you.
Yes, indeed, Chris and Susan. Authorities say these two individuals, Blake Bills and Shayna Sykes, were actually reported missing several days ago by a grandmother, apparently leaving behind their 7-month-old child. And certainly, after the events of today, authorities here say it's not a wild stretch of the imagination to conclude the two of them were likely on some sort of drugs. With complete disregard for human life or property in a stolen Philadelphia police cruiser, police say 23-year-old Shayna Sykes led them on a chase across a vast stretch of North Philadelphia, nearly striking a bystander near Lehigh and American, sideswiping cars with enough force to shred their tires and tear away the police car's bumper.
When I ran out, the car was still here. It was trying to turn a little bit. I don't know, I'm kind of speechless right now.
The chase actually began in Camden when authorities say Sykes and 24-year-old Blake Bills, seen in custody in the hooded sweatshirt, stole this Camden police car while the officer was conducting a traffic stop of another driver. Police say they hit the Camden officer and headed for the Ben Franklin Bridge, eventually ditching the Camden cruiser at 7th and Norris in North Philadelphia. While police arrested Bills, Sykes took off in a Philadelphia police car.
You're talking about some very reckless individuals. I mean, I've never heard of anybody stealing 2 police cars in the same incident.
The Chopper 3 HD was first above the chase, which took a dramatic turn near Lehigh and American when this woman was nearly struck. Moments later, the stolen cop car hit these 3 parked vehicles near Lehigh and 6th. The gray Buick belongs to Lysandra Casanova.
Oh my God, I'm still nervous.
How fast was that cop car moving?
I think it was fast because the bang was real loud.
The chase then turned south, Sykes making it all the way back to Front and Girard and Northern Liberties. At times, flames could be seen coming from the rear of the car, which suffered heavy damage.
She didn't look too frantic or anything. She kind of, maybe she had realized she was at the end of the road.
It looked like she just quit, and they grabbed her and took her into custody. She was barefooted and just, it looked like she was on drugs, just out wild.
Somewhat surprisingly, just 2 injuries in all of this. That Camden police officer suffered a fractured femur and is in stable condition at Cooper Hospital tonight. That bystander that was nearly struck up at Lehigh and American, she actually suffered just minor injuries. She was treated and released, we understand, from the hospital. These 2 are going to face a litany of charges, guys, in both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I can tell you on this side of the river so far, that includes resisting arrest, DUI, fleeing and eluding police, and risking a catastrophe. That's the story live at police headquarters. I'm Ben Simino, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Let me just give you some preliminary, very preliminary information. About 10:05 this morning, our police become aware of a pursuit in Camden Police Department of a marked vehicle that is stolen. At some point, I think it's around 10:05, 7th and Norris Streets, our officers join that pursuit. The car is chased for several blocks. At some point in time, we do decide to terminate the pursuit for safety of the citizens in the area. This car travels several blocks, strikes at least 3 vehicles unattended, we believe, and ends up here in 1100 block of Hope, where a female is apprehended. Now, what we understand thus far, and you'll have to get a lot of this from Camden, is that they're making an arrest of 2 individuals over there. And in the course of doing so, a female breaks loose with a suspect in the rear of that marked vehicle. And they come over here, and during the course of a struggle early on in the pursuit is when she's able to get in one of our vehicles.
So we're in Fishtown. The streets are about 25 feet wide here. There's cars parked on both sides. Talk to us a little bit about how dangerous this was and how it could have ended differently.
Well, that was a concern. I believe it was Deputy Wright standing behind me, the tall gentleman who terminated the pursuit for those reasons. The police officers involved used a tremendous amount of restraint, as you could see, and they did a great job under the circumstances. But you're talking about some very reckless individuals. I mean, I've never heard of anybody stealing 2 police cars in the same incident.